Call of Duty Season 5 is just days away, and with Black Ops 7 already on the horizon, now's the perfect time to revisit your settings and make sure your game is running at its absolute best. Optimizing your FPS or frames per second doesn't just boost performance, it transforms the entire experience. Now, fair warning, this video isn't about controller setups, mouse settings, or keyboard binds. I'm not covering sensitivity, aim multipliers, or interface tweaks. Today, we're dialing in the display, quality, and view tabs to make sure your game not only looks sharp, but runs buttery smooth. As always, I like to over-deliver, so stick around until the end. I'll be dropping bonus tips and extra settings to help you get the most out of your system. Let's also address something I can't stand about most of the settings videos creators push out. No one ever tells you what kind of rig they're using. They'll throw out settings that might work great on a $4,000 monster build, but never say a word about their specs. So before we jump in, let me show you what I'm working with. That way you can compare your setup to mine and decide where to copy settings and where you might need to scale back or push a little harder. I'm running a Gigabyte Aorus Master X570S motherboard with 64 gigabytes of G-Skill RAM at 4000 MHz, a Samsung 980 Pro SSD, and the new NVIDIA RTX 5070 Ti with 16 gigabytes of VRAM. No overclocking, nothing bleeding edge. It's what I'd call a solid mid to upper mid system. And don't forget, I'm also recording every session through OBS, so I'm always balancing game performance with content capture. That's why you won't see me pushing extreme settings. I aim for stability, not just eye candy. If you're curious about any of the parts I mentioned, I've linked most of them in my gear shop below using Amazon affiliate links, which also help support the channel, by the way. Let's jump into the display tab and start fine-tuning. Most of the options at the top will auto-adjust based on your monitor, so unless you're upscaling or downscaling intentionally, leave those alone. What you do want to scroll down and change is VSync. Make sure it's turned off in both gameplay and menus. If you're trying to squeeze every bit of performance out of Call of Duty, turning off VSync both in-game and in the menu is a quick win. VSync was designed to eliminate screen tearing by syncing your GPU's output with your monitor's refresh rate. But here's the catch, it adds input delay, and in a game where milliseconds count, that delay can cost you fights. With VSync off, your system can push frames as fast as it wants. That means lower input latency, more responsive aim, smoother movement, especially if you're playing on mouse and keyboard. You'll also unlock higher frame rates, which pairs perfectly with high refresh rate monitors. Turning it off makes the menus feel sharp and instant, no lag, no delay. Now, if you're on a 60Hz monitor or screen tearing drives you nuts, VSync might be worth keeping on. Just know you're trading raw input speed for cleaner visuals. While we're here, let's talk frame rate limits. Setting a custom cap just below your system's max output keeps your GPU from redlining every match. I've got mine just below 165 Hz. This reduces heat, power draw, and micro stuttering from sudden frame spikes. You still get buttery smooth frames, but with more consistency, and your hardware will thank you for it. The rest of the display tab is pretty straightforward. I keep menu render resolution native, pause game rendering is off, and my system is set to go idle after 10 minutes of inactivity. Moving into the quality tab, don't worry too much about the graphics preset. Mine says recommended, even though I've heavily customized everything. We're about to override it all anyway. Let's start with render resolution. This controls the internal resolution the game is drawn at before being scaled to your monitor. Set it below 100% and you'll boost performance but lose clarity. Go above 100% and things look sharper, but your frame rate takes a hit. I keep mine locked at 100% for a clean balance. Next up, dynamic resolution. That one's off. It tries to auto-balance frame rate by scaling resolution on the fly, but that results in a blurry, inconsistent image, especially during intense firefights. I'd rather manage my settings manually and keep everything looking sharp. Instead, I run Fidelity FX for upscaling and sharpening. It's easily one of the best options for getting crisp visuals without crushing performance. Even if you lower internal resolution, Fidelity FX helps maintain image clarity. Moving on to AMD FSR 3 frame generation, this one is also off. It inserts fake frames between real ones to make gameplay look smoother, but those aren't true frames and they mess with input timing. That added latency just isn't worth it in a fast-paced shooter. Now for VRAM scale target, I've got mine locked at 90%. This setting controls how much of your GPU's video memory the game is allowed to use. The higher you go, the more space the engine has to load detailed assets and textures. That means cleaner models, faster texture loads, and less hitching in heavy scenes. But don't overdo it. Push it too far and your system could start offloading to RAM or storage, causing stutters or delayed visuals. If you're noticing hitches, try backing it down to 75 or even 70%. For me, 90% is the sweet spot. Great visuals, no overload. The key here is finding your personal system's threshold and staying just under it. Variable rate shading stays on. It reduces shading precision in areas you're not focused on, like screen corners or shadowed regions, while keeping the action area sharp. You won't notice the visual trade-off, but you'll definitely feel the frame rate boost. Texture resolution is set to normal. It's right in the middle, sharp enough for clean visuals. Ultra settings barely make a difference in gameplay, but they hit performance hard. Low settings might save resources, but at the cost of polish. Normal just works. Texture filter anisotropic is on high. It cleans up angled surfaces, roads, walls, ground without a big performance cost. Distant textures stay crisp, and that can actually help target tracking. It's a smart visual upgrade that most systems can easily handle. Depth of field is off, no hesitation there. It might look cinematic, but in multiplayer it hides threats and slows down target acquisition. You want everything in focus all the time. Detail quality is set to normal. That keeps the world looking detailed without overwhelming your GPU. If you've got headroom, you can bump it up. If not, dropping it a notch helps maintain consistency. Particle resolution is also on normal. Fire, smoke, and explosions still look solid, but without dragging down your frames. If you notice dips during kill streaks or big fights, try low. If your system's strong, feel free to experiment higher. Bullet impacts, on. They add satisfying visual feedback when your shots land, especially through cover. The performance cost is tiny, and the immersion boost is real. Persistent effects are also on. Think scorch marks, residual fire trails, atmospheric details that stay around longer. They don't cost much performance, so unless you're really strapped for resources, leave them enabled. Shader quality is set to high. This one makes a big difference in how the game feels. Lighting transitions better, materials have more pop, and surfaces react to the environment more naturally. If you notice long compile times or hitching, this is one you can scale down. On-demand texture streaming is set to minimal. This keeps just enough detail without hammering your bandwidth or causing unexpected lag spikes. If you've got strong internet, go higher. If not, stay minimal for consistency. Local texture streaming quality is at normal. That means solid texture delivery without constant pull from the drive. If you're seeing texture pop-ins, consider dropping it, but most systems will run fine here. Shadow quality is also at normal. It keeps ambient shadows realistic without choking your GPU. You can bump it higher for immersion, but expect a performance hit. Screen space shadows are set to high. These control the way shadows react dynamically to light based on your perspective. It makes a big difference in realism, and performance cost isn't terrible. High is a great balance. Occlusion and screen space lighting are both set to high. These manage how light wraps around objects and fills in the environment, basically what makes the game feel believable. If you're chasing every frame, normal works too, but high gives the world more depth. Screen space reflections are on high. They control reflective surfaces like water and polished floors. The effect looks great, but if you're on a lower end rig or playing a rain-heavy map, dropping this can help. Static reflection quality is set to high. These are pre-baked reflections, skybox, ambient lighting, etc. The performance cost is minor, and visuals look much better with it maxed out. Tessellation is turned off. It adds 3D depth to surfaces like roads and bricks, but in multiplayer, it does nothing for gameplay and burns unnecessary resources. Skip it. Volumetric quality is set to medium. That controls fog and light beams. Cinematic effects that can get expensive. Medium keeps the visual flavor without crushing frames. Deferred physics quality low. It affects destructible clutter, falling debris, and stuff that looks cool but adds nothing to gunplay. Set it low and focus your GPU on what matters. Weather grid volumes quality is normal. Wind, weather interactions, light particle physics. This adds to atmosphere, not action. Normal keeps the feel without the drain. Water quality is set to all. Ripples, reflections, full dynamics. It's a bit heavier on frames, but it looks fantastic and feels premium, so I let it run. Now for the bonus section, View tab. Motion reduction preset is off. It reduces motion effects, but also flattens the feel of the game. If you're sensitive to blur or or camera shake, maybe give it a shot, but most players should keep it off for maximum responsiveness. Field of view is maxed to 120, more vision, more awareness, more control. It's heavier on frames, but totally worth the trade. ADS field of view is set to affected. This keeps your field of view consistent when aiming, so transitions are smoother and more natural. Independent can help with focus, but affected is better for tracking and reaction time. Weapon field of view is on wide. It pulls the weapon model back a bit. Third-person field of view is set to 90. It gives you the best spatial awareness in third-person modes. Vehicle field of view is also on wide. Same reason, better peripheral vision when you're moving fast or rotating in tight areas. And finally, world motion blur and weapon motion blur. Both are off always. Motion blur hides movement clarity and slows target tracking. Turn it off and keep things sharp and responsive. If you made it this far, you've now got a fully optimized setup that balances visual clarity, consistent performance, and tactical advantage, all without pushing your system to the edge. Whether you're on mid-range hardware or running a newer GPU like mine, the goal isn't to max everything out, it's to make smart choices that keep the game smooth, clean, and competitive. The beauty of dialing in your settings is that once it's done, you don't have to touch it again. Optimization isn't one size fits all, but this should give you a rock-solid starting point no matter what you're working with. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.